Angelique Jackson. I am one of the senior entertainment writers at Variety, who's making sure these were not upside down. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday evening for this special screening of Creed 3. And really, let's bring everybody up here, because y'all did not come here to hear me talk. So first we have screenwriter Zach Baylin. And we also have screenwriter Keenan Coogler. Next we have producer Elizabeth Raposo. And last, but certainly not least, we have director, producer, and star. Get those screams ready.
What's up, you guys?
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Michael, what's it like that now all I get out is the word director in association with this movie and folks start screaming?
I like that. That's good. That's good. You know what I'm saying? Change your pace a little bit. Nah, directing thing is cool. Yeah.
What is it like as you look back and remember that decision? When you made that decision, yes, this is the one. Because I know you had thought about directing before.
Mhm.
You know, this had been kind of a dream, a goal of yours at some point. But at some point you had to make the decision, this is the right opportunity for me. What was the deciding factor?
I think it was a lot of factors. I think it was just timing and a mixture of, Ryan Coogler. I think being able to kind of see him, somebody that looks like me, around the same age, kind of like go from Fruitvale Station to Creed on a Black Panther. You know what I'm saying? And to like, sometimes you got to see somebody, do it in order to kind of you have the confidence to kind of believe that you can do it as well. It's the only character that I played 3 times before, so I kind of grew up with Adonis. I had a clear opinion on and a point of view where I wanted to take the franchise, and I had a great team in shorthand with people that I've made other films before, so I felt protected and I felt like I had a group of people, and screenwriters that I felt like who could really support the vision and go on and execute it. So it was a mixture of all those things. At a certain point as an actor, you get to a certain point where you don't want to take direction as much. It's like I'm getting tired of told to stand here, say that. You have a perspective that you want to kind of take your destiny in your own hands and tell a story. So this one was it for me.
Absolutely. Well, you certainly did that. And this destiny has taken us now to this awards conversation, but also, box office success, critical acclaim for your first film out. Keenan, I'm actually going to go down to you real quick because, as Micah said, he has played this character 3 times, knows it very well. But you may have known the Creed story almost even before he did.
A little bit.
So tell me a little bit about what it is like, stepping into this role as screenwriter and bringing what is, interesting for a third movie, an origin story of Adonis Creed.
I think creatively, I was super hyped to. When you do a sequel, especially to one for a long-running franchise, it's super important to recontextualize the movies that came before it. And I think that was the opportunity that we got with the origin story angle. But for me, just being like a part of the story, or a part of the journey for these characters, I was just like, I was glad that they trusted me. It filled me with confidence. And but like, what kind of, as Mike is saying, we grew up with this character, and he kind of like lives and breathes a lot of all of us creatively. I think that's why people connect with him. And I just like felt like I was doing my job, passing the baton.
What was it that you wanted to bring out in Adonis this time around?
I liked the angle of making him a little brother. That was kind of how I saw my way into the story. I know kind of what it's like to have a shadow from other brother. So I sort of try to always see the character through that angle and put them in that position, because I always see a lot of my brother in that character. But sort of turning that paradigm a little bit, I think, was brought me connected to the story.
Zach, what about for you? What was your way into this story?
Well, I mean, I was a huge fan of the of the first film and the second film, and obviously I grew up with with the whole Rocky franchise, so just having the opportunity to just be a part of that was kind of an undeniable chance. But I don't know, it's from a character perspective. I think we all, like four of us here, and then Ryan and everyone that collaborated on the film, we talked a lot about like what Adonis was going through and what Damien was going through, and I think that there's certainly elements in my life that I think the feeling of responsibility to other people that you feel like certainly helped support you in your passions and tried. I think that I feel like there are people in my life that were very instrumental in sort of pushing my dreams, and then some of them I think didn't necessarily reach the places that they wanted to get to, and I think that I don't know, there's a lot of feeling of like responsibility and sometimes guilt of having the thing that other people have also striving towards, and wondering like what your responsibility is in sort of helping people find that path too. So I think that I brought a lot of that into this.
Well, Elizabeth, I want to go to you next, because this was a project that kind of kicked off a new phase of your collaboration with Michael as the president of Outlier Society. What was the draw for you, one, in taking that role, but also two, in kind of starting things out with a movie like Creed 3 and hitting the ground running?
Well, the first part of your question is an easy one. What was the draw? I think we all have been in awe of Michael's talent here ever since he was a teenager. And so I was a fan first, and had always tried to actually work with him in my former role as president of production at Paramount, but he was always very busy. So we never figured that out. And then this opportunity arose, and I leapt at it. So, thank you, Michael, for inviting me on the journey. And yeah, on day one of my new job, it was, hey, we're making Creed 3 and Michael's gonna direct, and a beautiful first draft showed up in my inbox. And so what was so awesome about reading this script for the first time as a new member of the Creed family was that it was a complete paradigm shift. It was, yes, a Creed movie, yes, a boxing movie, yes, an action movie, but it was also the best of sort of great American noir thrillers. And a lot of the references that we all put on the whiteboard in the early days were the best in class of those comps. So both Cape Fears, anything with Robert Mitchum, Night of the Hunter, Out of the Past. And so for me, it was an opportunity to contribute to one of the great genres of American filmmaking, and for a new great American filmmaker.
Tell me a little bit, for all of you, about that evolution, because Michael, as you were just saying, the opportunity to be the director on this means that you're not, there's always been collaboration with these movies, but there's even more vision that you're able to put into the storyline. I've heard you say that the idea that a lot of us know is true in filmmaking is there's one movie in the script, there's one movie that you shoot, one movie in the edit. What was the evolution like for you as you got to be now in a different role in all three phases of that?
I think it was look, I had people, especially Liz, in my corner who helped put this movie together in a real way. All right, this is the next step. Then we're going to pre-production. All right, we're going to set up your workout schedule in the same building as the production office, so you can go from one station to the next and maximize your time. So they kind of put me on this rigorous schedule to kind of knowing that I'll be playing both roles, and my time was going to be limited, and to really maximize my schedule was really important. But for me, the evolution was just, I like challenges. You put something in front of me, I'm gonna be a quick learner, and from the boxing, which I had a real clear kind of vision of what I wanted to do and how to make it different in my own. Kind of told myself, if all else fails, the boxing is going to be tier 1. It's going to be we're going to get the fights down, and just meeting all my department heads, realizing, how to collaborate, speaking to everybody in their own love language, because everybody, you have to, talk to everybody differently and figure out, how to best get the most out of them, and vice versa. And I was lucky enough to have a cast that I've grew up with and worked with several times. So it was that trust and shorthand that was really a part of that evolution process. How to speak to actors, being an actor myself. So I wanted to create an environment where everybody could be creative and take swings and trust that I had a lot of the answers, not all of them. You know what I'm saying? A lot of questions to answer. But I think that was the process. And then it was just once the anxiety kind of got out the way, and day one, you put the cameras up, you get that first take out of the way. Everything else just felt really natural, and never looked back.
Keenan and Zach, I'm curious, what were your love languages? What was the way in truly in collaboration with Michael? Because a big part of a movie like this is that there's going to be changes and adjustments, and the script is going to evolve when you have such talented actors are on the screen that that care so much about their characters and what they want them to do and be. So what was the script writing process as the three of you, well, really all of y'all went through it together?
Well, I think when we were working over quarantine, that was an experience.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really meet until, so we were working, remotely on Zoom for the first 8 months on it, maybe, just really, I mean, passing pages back and forth and talking about the characters and watching Michael and Tessa, sometimes rehearse things on Zoom, and we would watch, and then there were some.
We had a couples therapy session that me and Zach were in the Zoom blacked out on.
Yeah.
Got to sit in, and they, Mike and Tessa did an entire couples therapy session in character.
Yeah.
And that was powerful, and I got a
Insightful.
therapist shortly after that.
Yeah. But I mean, I think to that point, we were coming into. I mean, Keenan's been involved in this franchise for a long time, and Michael, from the inception. But so has Tessa and Wood and all of these other actors, and so I know I relied a lot on them to talk about where they thought their characters would be, and even as we were collectively building the story, then to be able to go to all of them, and and Michael really built the story with us, so it was very, I don't think we were ever felt like we were adrift or trying to follow some story and then bring it back to him. I think he was incredibly involved from the beginning.
Yeah, and I would say, as someone who observed this group collaborating, it was a beautiful iterative process. So if Michael if he was in rehearsal with the other actors and he had an idea, we got the guys on the phone, or they were in Atlanta with us, and then those ideas made it to the screen the next day. So it was there. I always felt like there was no separation between any of us in the creative process.
And it was super. I mean, I think it's a testament to these characters that we Zach and I, we can be 100 miles away from each other and build a scene out, and people have such a clear idea of these characters that we all can find that singular voice for the dialogue that seamlessly. You're not in there, somebody can have an idea what Bianca would say, but we all kind of have the same perspective on this character because she's so thorough now by this third film. And then when you get in there with these actors who are really seasoned performers, they make you better. You know what I mean? It takes 20 minutes of going through the script with Tess, and you're like, oh, I didn't think of that at all. And they just, everything is all an improvement. Nothing is holding the process back. It was just really fun.
Because as you said, I mean, the boxing scenes are top tier, but there really is such a strong, layered story about this man and how he's operating in, moving into a new phase of his career, moving into a new phase of his life as a father, dealing with, a new phase of marriage, and then, things with his mother, there's so many elements here, well beyond the boxing. So when you are crafting and kind of balancing all of those elements, what did you end up finding was really important in kind of streamlining this? Because I'm still really surprised. I'm like, when I walked out of this movie, I said, how did they manage to do all of this in less than 2 hours?
A lot of that is Miss Liz Raposo. Actually.
Seriously.
Liz is an expert at corralling all these disparate creative ideas, keeping us on the same path. We can throw any reference at her, and she'll kind of catch on, and it just gives us that, like Mike was saying, that shorthand immediately. A lot of us met for the first time on this film, so I think that was what jumped out to me that quickly. It's like, wow, this is like a really good team. I feel like I'm on the Lakers when I'm with these guys or something.
It was a lot. I think understanding this was a family drama, and it's a family franchise, so you want to keep the family at the forefront of a lot of those decisions. And as Adonis growing up to into what kind of man he wanted to be, sometimes we felt like this was the only time that this could be an Adonis Creed film. Like I wanted to feel like a trilogy and an origin story all in one. So in order to do that, you had to go backwards and figure out kind of where it all started. In that childhood trauma that I think everybody kind of has their own version of, and the things that weren't said. Before you met Rocky. Before that those big influences in his life throughout the franchise that we've seen. And knowing that Rocky wasn't going to be in this one, it was the time we had the space to be able to explore that. And when Damien came into the picture, that was a representation, of all the choices and the decisions that Adonis could have made. The man he could have been. He could have been in those situations. So I think holding a mirror up to Adonis throughout this movie was really important. And Adonis has this thing. He's always been compared to his father. He's always been in his father's shadow so much, and we kind of got rid of and solved a lot of those daddy issues and identity issues in the first two films. So this one was like about him, and what kind of man he wanted to be and what kind of choices he was going to make. And now that he has a daughter that's looking to him for social cues, what kind of example is he going to be for that? And within his marriage and all those things, kind of like we had the perfect kind of just buffet of options to kind of take this guy through. And a lot of there's a lot of things that didn't make it to the screen. That's on the editing room floor that it was good to shoot and get out and explore and flush it out. And where we want to take this franchise also, because it could have been it was if this was the last one, we felt good that we left it in a great place where we could just walk away, but at the same time we left the door open a little bit for opportunity to continue to move forward, and not in a just milking it way, but in a way that really had some bite to it in a real way. So yeah.
And I will say that just to add on to that, to give Michael a compliment, the storytelling inside of the boxing matches was very, very important to him. So I love the crypto.com fight because you see the villain declare that he is becoming the villain. That's not just a boxing match. All of a sudden this character you've been so sympathetic towards, and he seems so vulnerable and misunderstood, all of a sudden he just comes right out there and says, no, I am now the villain of the film, right? And that's all from the great storytelling done by these three gentlemen. And then of course the final fight at Dodger Stadium takes on a whole other level of operatic scale, which is just, I think, so beautiful. At the end of the day, I'm pinching myself that I got to work on this movie, but I'm such a fan of it. But yeah, the storytelling was really important to Michael inside of the fights.
Before we get to the Battle for Los Angeles, I do want to talk about the girl dad element of this movie, because the Rocky movies, the Creed movies have been so much about fathers and sons, and we have a unique opportunity to have a father and daughter with also the incredible Mila Davis-Kent. What a fight! Yes, absolutely. For all of you, tell me a little bit about developing that story and what it kind of allowed for us to see. What were some of the references? What were some of the elements that we wanted to bring to the screen there?
Mike came to me and Zach, and he was like, this was around the time we lost Kobe Bryant, and the world was kind of filling that void of what that figure represented, especially to us as black men. It was like, we kind of realized there was this figure that was, he left this vacuum, it felt like. And I remember Mike saying something to the effect of like, we got to infuse that element. I think it might have even been creatively like a cathartic process for us to try, but in that, I think it allowed us to sort of see another avenue that we haven't seen this character. And like you were saying before, the films are so much about relationships. Bringing a new relationship would only bring a new side of Adonis out, and that's what I was mostly interested in seeing.
I mean, I have a daughter who was about the same age as Amara was when we were writing it, so that was very informative to me, and just sort of, obviously seeing your life change and priorities change, and what it's like to try and, continue to have a career and some kind of identity when you're like, you know where your time and space is supposed to be dedicated at that point. So certainly like that was creeping in there for me. And then I think like, Mike and Ryan and Stephen Cable and everyone did like such an amazing job of establishing that scenario and that family in 1 and 2, and it felt so rich, I think, to see Adonis, who was raised in a lot of ways as an orphan and did not have a father, and to think about what his idea as a father would be like. It just seemed like there was so much drama and I mean, some of my favorite scenes are the ones between him and Bianca sort of talking about parenting, and obviously Mila was amazing. So I think once once they got on set and saw what she could do, I think it opened up so many more possibilities.
Yeah, I think Keenan hit like the girl dad element, like you said before. Fathers and sons exist so much in boxing, period. And since Apollo Creed was kind of modeled after Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali and his daughter Layla Ali, it was just like, okay, let's do something different with this and really establish a father-daughter relationship. And once we lost the late great Kobe Bryant, and Gigi, it really cemented that was a direction I wanted to pour into and go, and how much I have a lot of friends around me who has daughters, and just that I have those examples of what that looks like, and they're so proud, and hearing the stories of what they before they had children, when I wanted a boy and this and this, that. So when they got the girl, they were completely changed, and preferred it and wouldn't have it any other type of way. So I really wanted to explore what that would feel like for Adonis, and especially with somebody who for a living punches people in the face and goes to battle day in, day out, to see the duality of like somebody who causes damage and fights with his hands, but then is so emotional and intimate and care with his hands as well when he's speaking to his daughter. To kind of see that, it was amazing to dive into that world, and Mila was fantastic. She was amazing. To get a chance to work with her and her family, who were all completely deaf, and to educate me and us on what that world is like, and what's how do we honor this? How do we highlight without highlighting? We got an opportunity in the first 2 films to set this up, so this one it could just be. This is just a Black ASL family that exists, and we didn't have to do a lot of work in the sense of shining a light on something, and people just went along with it. We had a fun time figuring out how to use the subtitles in a unique way, and at one point, even in the final fight. Well, I'll wait till you get into that stuff. But anyway,
Let's go there.
It's it's a quadrilingual film. I think it's English, Spanish. We have ASL, and then fighting is the 3rd language throughout this movie. Especially in the last fight. I want to take away all the words. There was a moment where there was subtitles in that last fight. When each punch was a piece of dialogue. Between Damon and Adonis, and we ended up veering away from it in the edit because it was just a little too complicated for people to follow all the fights, and it was so visual and read at the same time. So we ended up taking those away, which made it even more powerful. I feel like with the music especially. Yeah, my love of Japanese animation, really played a huge part in the fights throughout this movie, especially that final scene. the void is what we called it a lot while we were shooting it and developing it. But usually in anime, when two main characters are fighting, this vicious, physical battle, they're usually emotionally somewhere talking about how they feel, in a quiet, place. It's usually either all black space or all white space, and they're usually talking through, why they feel the way they feel. And it was perfect vehicle for these two guys who couldn't really talk about the past trauma the way they needed to. In great warrior fashion, they had to fight to kind of settle their differences and kind of really understand how they felt. And we used the childhood trauma and those pivotal moments throughout their childhood to talk about it. It was almost like a therapy session. So with our incredible cinematographer and our production designer, Jameen and Kramer, we crafted these vignettes, of the mattress that was from the foster home, and the lights of the police that night, and the jail cell that Damien, spent a lot of his life in. It was the perfect kind of way to really, and the score, was amazing, and the operatic. I wanted to feel like a stage play, like a Greek, like performance art, was something that we kind of landed on, and yeah. It was a lot.
Elizabeth, when you first read or visualize a scene, like really, it's not a scene; it's a sequence, and it's many scenes with the Battle for Los Angeles.
Yeah.
What were you seeing as sort of the process, especially in the production of something like that? Because, as you mentioned, kind of all the layers to it. I mean, first of all, when we're just watching the scene in of itself, like we can see through the acting, the words that they're saying to each other. Like that is there. It is all there. And so now I'm curious, that idea of it having been written at one point in the script, and how that then affects you as an actor. But just also the production elements of it, as big as it is, and then as visual as it's going to be, the effects elements of it. What does it take to pull together an opus like that?
Well, it takes an incredible director to have the vision for exactly what he is going for, and then it takes, obviously the two gentlemen to my right, and then an entire army of great people that we have, which we're grateful for. But it was, look, we basically just kept trying to top ourselves. So we were like, well, after the montage, which is going to be the best montage because it has to be, because we want it to be, then we have to make it one of the best fights in the franchise. So we just kept trying to really challenge ourselves to make it the best possible sequence. Once we landed on LA, and Michael landed on the iconography of Dodger Stadium, then that's when every department really everyone got so excited. Visual effects, DP, the incredible Kramer Morgenthau, production design by Jameen Asa, costumes by Liz Wolfe. It's like, okay, well then what's Adonis's walkout gonna look like? And then but then when the bell goes, what's the ring gonna look like? Like everything from the aesthetic of the clean white mat and Adonis's beautiful shorts, and the pearl colored gloves, like every detail on that screen, Michael had a vision for, and then all the department heads they ran to that North Star, and I think they nailed it. Music, of course, we've mentioned here a lot tonight. That became a big piece of it. As you say, and as Michael has said this evening, it goes very big, but when it gets quiet, it gets very, very quiet, and you can hear a pin drop in the theater. And that was exciting too, to really take an audience all the way there and then bring them all the way back to center and make it feel very, very intimate and small. Again, so all the signs of a great director. But so it was a true team effort. It was, and everyone did a wonderful job.
For you two, Keenan and Zach, what was it like writing a scene like that?
I mean, fight scenes and sports sequences are really pretty complicated to write because one, at the beginning you don't know really what the choreography is going to be, and so you're trying to mostly write story and character just like their regular dramatic scenes. But you also want them to, like, you know, you want to excite your producer and your director, so you put in a lot of bullshit that's like, but you know, I think we really tried to address it, like, you know, where these if these fights are, you know, if that final fight is its own movie, you know,
Right.
what's the arc of it, and where are the character turns, and what punches mean, you know, an assault, in which you're saying something different. And I think that Keenan and I really looked at it that way, and so, you know, those fights probably evolved as much as any scene, just in terms of like both the choreography, but also really like what the characters were going through. And we wrote dialogue for a lot of those punches, which I think was really helpful. And then in the end, I think that Michael and Jonathan's performances are so amazing that I don't think you needed any of the stuff that we wrote. But yeah, it's very, very evolving. And then when you get on set and then we started working with Michael and the fight choreographers, and then you're really adapting like the choreography into the specific shots, and so then it becomes like kind of technical.
You learn pretty quick that there's a story that has to take place in those final battles. Otherwise, it could be as cool visually as you would want to see, but if the story isn't there, instinctually you don't feel it. And I think that was my way into it. We used to talk about anime all the time, and I understood immediately what he was kind of going for narratively. Because if you watch, Japanese animation, the fights are obviously they're spectacle, but there's so much story and narrative that they managed to pull off. And I kind of talk about this often, but we could have done our jobs perfectly. Everybody, set could have been perfectly built. Choreography could have been shot perfectly. Everything could have been A1 on the day, but it doesn't work without those performances. Watching Adonis and Damien's face tells most of that emotional story. So I think kind of the biggest challenge is the work you do before it. You got to be able to do your job enough so that they come in and you're just kind of making the room for them to build their own furniture. And that's what Mike and Jonathan did so well. Was they stepped into it and they immediately were able to go straight into that emotion. And I think Liz is being very, very, very modest. You asked the question as how do you make a film with all these disparate departments and get them all in line? The answer is you have a Liz Raposo.
Take it.
It's okay. We're gonna work on you because I mean it is pretty spectacular. The idea too that and forgive me if I'm wrong, but technically you are of course now the first female producer ever on a Rocky or Creed film.
Capital D.
True. It's true. It's the truth.
Well, it's the truth, and it's an important truth. And thank you for allowing us to give you a little bit of flowers here this evening.
Thank you.
And we'll end this with giving you, sir, again our directorial debut, Mr. Michael B. Jordan. More flowers. As you have sat here and watched this movie with various audiences and various people and heard from people about it, what are you the most proud of about this entire process?
Oh, that's a great question. I think having something in my head, an idea, a thought, and seeing it through to the end. I think something powerful about creatives and of having an idea and a goal and in this town, it's a blessing and very lucky to see it get done. So for me to see so much of myself and my family and people that I know, to see them up on screen in various different ways and dynamics and themes, makes me feel hopeful that other people see a bit of themselves up on screen as well, and makes them feel and think and challenge thoughts. That's what I love about cinema so much. It makes people think and have healthy conversations on how to be better. And I think the world needs a little bit of that, right now. And yeah, I think that's what I'm most proud of, and I'm most proud of like the team. Honestly, I go to war with them any day, and it's
Well, we are proud of you. Congratulations. Thank you all so much. And enjoy.
Thanks everyone. Thank you.